Today we will review the Post-Demolition Compliance Checklist form, which effective June 10, 2021, is one of the required documents for voluntary buyout or acquisition programs. A hyperlink to the Post-Demolition Compliance Checklist can be found on the Texas General Land Office website at recovery.texas.gov. To locate the document, go to the Local Buyout and Acquisition Program page, which is linked below in the description section of this video. Scroll down to the Demolition Information section and click on the Post-Demolition Checklist with Disposal Tag link. Once you click on the link, your computer will download the fillable document. Note: you will need Microsoft Word to view and edit the document. The Post-Demolition Compliance Checklist must be completed by the subrecipient and the demolition contractor for each buyout or acquisition property that is acquired and demolished, certifying the demolition followed program and federal requirements on each site. This form should be completed in a phased approach. First, the subrecipient should complete the project information section and provide the checklist to the demolition contractor to complete. Note: it is a best practice to include this form in the procurement documentation as a requirement to complete under the scope of the project. Next, once the demolition is complete, the demolition contractor should complete the demolition section, checking off all items that were completed, and the demolition contractor should sign certifying the accuracy of the information provided. Finally, in the third phase, the subrecipient will review the checklist and ensure that all of the items the demolition contractor has checked off were completed satisfactorily. The subrecipient should attach all backup documentation to the file and sign that the information is true and accurate. For this video, we will use an example of a fictional applicant and location to explain the form. To begin, subrecipients should complete the project information section of the form with the information on the project and property. For authorized representative of the subrecipient state, subrecipients should input their name. Next, subrecipients should input the contract number. This is the GLO contract number located in your contract. Then the subrecipient should input the applicant's name and physical address for the property that the checklist is being created for. Next, the project information section has instructions that the checklist is to be used for residential demolition, which consists of complete removal of a single-family residence or residential accessory structure. This checklist is provided to ensure that proper procedures are followed when demolishing a structure. All actions associated with demolition must be in accordance with federal, state, and local jurisdiction requirements. Finally, in the project information section, the subrecipient should select whether this is part of a buyout or acquisition program, or whether it is a demolition-only program. For the local buyout or acquisition program, the subrecipient should check acquisition buyout. In the second phase, the demolition contractor should check off all items that were completed in the demolition section. Note: not all items are applicable to every site. The contractor should only check off items that were applicable and were completed. Contractors should check if the following occurred. In the first row, if permits were required for demolition, the contractor should check this box and list the required permits that were granted. In the second row, contractors should identify if there were any hazards identified during the environmental review or demolition, such as asbestos or lead-based paint. They should check off asbestos if asbestos was identified, or if another hazard was identified, others should be checked and the hazard should be written in the form. If hazards were identified, the contractor should check off the abatement of hazard box once the hazards have been properly abated. Abatement documentation and disposal tags must be attached to the form. Next, contractors should check if the water meter was removed, and/or if the water line was capped to the main. The contractor should also check if there were gas lines on the property, if the gas meter was removed and the gas line capped at the termination point, and/or if there was a water well on the property that was properly abandoned, sealed, and capped. Contractors should only check off applicable items that were completed. For our example, the fictional demolition contractor is not checking this item because there was no water well on the property. They should check if there was a sanitary sewer on the property and if it was disconnected and capped, and/or if there were on-site sewage facilities, if they were disconnected and properly mitigated. If contractors are going to keep the existing gas service and pipe, they should check the termination point of the existing gas service and any service pipe to remain. Contractors should check if they removed any liquefied petroleum gas tanks and service lines if there were any on the property. Next, the contractor should check if the existing electrical service and feeders were terminated and disconnected, and/or that all broken or damaged sidewalks, curbs, or driveways damaged as a result of the demolition were repaired or replaced. Contractors should also check that they have completed all required backfilling and final grading, and that all debris has been cleaned up and properly disposed of. Next, there is a box for any remarks the contractor may have about the items that have been checked or the demolition. If any items were required and are still pending, the contractor should provide information on why they are pending and when they will be completed. Then the demolition contractor should ensure to provide copies of all required documentation to the subrecipient. Required documentation that must be attached to the checklist includes before pictures of front side, back side, left side, and right side of the home, after pictures of the demolished site, abatement documentation if lead hazards were identified, disposal tag if asbestos hazards were identified. Note: subrecipients may require that the demolition contractor take before and after pictures, or they may themselves take the pictures. In our example, the subrecipient is taking the pictures, so the demolition contractor did not check off those boxes. They only checked off the disposal tag provided for asbestos hazards. Finally, after completing the form, the authorized representative of the demolition contractor should print, sign, and date where it says builder's printed name. With their signature, the contractor is certifying that the information presented in this document is true and accurate to the best of their knowledge and belief. They further understand that providing false representation herein constitutes an act of fraud. False, misleading, or incomplete information may result in the ineligibility to participate in programs that will accept this document. Any person who knowingly makes a false claim or statement to HUD may be subject to civil or criminal penalties under 18 U.S.C. 287, 1001, and 31 U.S.C. 3729. Upon receiving the checklist from the demolition contractor, the subrecipient should review the checklist and confirm that the items were completed and that they were completed to satisfaction. If any items that were checked off were not completed to satisfaction, it should be noted in the remarks section, and the demolition contractor should complete those items. Next, the subrecipient should ensure they received all required documentation from the demolition contractor and attach it to the completed checklist along with any additional documentation required to be attached, such as photos. Finally, the subrecipient's authorized representative should print, sign, and date their name, certifying that the information presented is true and accurate, and that false representation is an act of fraud. We hope you enjoyed this training on the post-demolition compliance checklist. If there are any additional questions during the completion of the form, subrecipients should reach out to their General Land Office grant manager. Additional videos covering the other required local buyout and acquisition forms are or will soon be available at the same location you are viewing this one.